Good morning. Good morning from Melbourne, Australia. Good evening to friends in North America. And hello to anyone watching on replay. My name is Nancy Hetker, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Melbourne, Australia. And if you are joining me, whether live or on a replay, please comment hello so I can see that you're here. Hello, Paula and Gladys. Thanks for joining me today. So today I've cobbled together, I've seen a number of these online recently, cards that are using, have a big focal image and then have strips of designer series paper, pattern paper, framing them in this offset pattern. As often is the case, I find them done for U.S. letter imperial measurements. So I sketched out, I made a template of how to do it, and I just keep a stash of retired cardstock to play around with my templates. And I will say, doing the math in centimeters is much easier. Decimals are base 10. That's much easier than dealing with quarter inches and eighths of an inch and what have you. So this is what I've come up with because I wanted such a big one in the center. And so I will change it up when I do other things, but I specifically made this one to be able to accommodate this Merry Christmas stamp, which I think is really pretty in its simplicity. And it's a pretty font, but it's a good size. So that leaves the designer series paper as very thin strips. If I was doing something else where I had a smaller rectangle in the center, these would be wider. And so I will probably do another version with a smaller centerpiece, but I wanted that. So let's actually start by doing that. I've got a piece of garden green cut to that central rectangle size. And I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat because this is a photopolymer stamp. And my embossing buddy from my Embossing Editions toolkit. And this you can possibly see on the camera here. This just has powder. And it's going to get any oils from fingers off, coat anything oily, sticky, cut down any static, and make it so that this, when we put embossing powder onto the cardstock, it minimizes how much sticks where we don't have the sticky Versamark ink. So I am going to ink up the stamp. And as often the case, when I have a larger block, heavier block, I often like to take the pad to the stamp instead of doing that. And now, what are you? I am going to try to get a good perspective on here and try to get it well aligned. And I try to use my grid, even if you're not really actively counting blocks and whatever. If you have your cardstock aligned on the grid, it just helps all of the straight lines. Your brain works with it. And everything is straighter. I can't promise precision, but I do my best. So that's pretty good. And now I'm going to bring in my embossing kit. I like to use a box. It just helps, keeps powder from going all over my work surface. And I transfer my powder into a little plastic container. I know some people like to keep it in its little pot and pour it onto paper or a powder pal to funnel it back into the little pot. I just find this much quicker and easier for me personally and when I'm doing a class. So I'm tapping off any excess. I am going back over where I think it might be a little bit light. And then I have a little brush here. I'm not quite sure. I got a little shadow there, so I want to try to take off just that little bit of powder. But you can see I really don't have any stray powder all over, which is a good thing, because sometimes you'll just get speckles of powder everywhere, and that's annoying. So put those aside. I keep these in here because I often use them to hold down so it doesn't blow away. And I'm going to bring in my heat tool. I'm just heating it up a little bit in advance. This is a big enough piece, I don't really think it's going to go flying anywhere. I'm telling you, after almost 20 years of stamping, it's still magical every time it melts. I don't know if you can see the difference here. We've got powder that is not melted and powder that is melted and more solid and glossy. There we go. You do want to be sure not to overheat it because it will start to melt and disappear on you, which is not what you want. So there's that piece ready to go. Now I'm going to bring in the other part. See, that goes right there in the center. You love my color choices here? I really didn't care. I wanted them to stand out as being different from each other. Now, I'm going to put this onto, I've got a soft seafoam card base because the designer series paper I chose is this one from Christmas Tags and More. I think this layout would work really well with contrasting, or two different patterns like I'm showing on there, but on this one I didn't do that. But maybe we'll go ahead and make another one. And I did pre-cut everything. I think, again, I can't really eyeball that. The easiest way I think to get it on there is to eyeball these on. I know that I want a 2mm border all the way around, and I can eyeball that. And that will leave 2mm border for that to go into the center. So I think we're going to do it that way. It's going to be the easiest rather than trying to put something dead set in the middle. Come here. So let's see how well we do this here. These little squares on my grid are 5mm. Again, I'm not really using it to measure per se, but I am using it to eyeball. Made this one a little too narrow. There we go. Again, it's not going to be perfect at all, but that's okay. So one of the benefits of this is once you have all your strips cut, is it's actually pretty quick to assemble. Which often, when you're making Christmas cards, I don't know. Depends on how many you send out. I send a lot of Christmas cards if I'm sending to everybody. But this is nice because it has oomph to it, but it doesn't have a lot of thickness. So you don't ever have to add extra postage. Bonus. This is the same size as the front panel. And let's see about some. Yeah, I don't think green on the green. I think white. I think it's fine, plain. Let's see what we think about adding a few of these. Get here. There we go. There's that one. Should we make another one? Let's see what we come up with here. Oh my goodness, getting stuck on my trimmer. So this is the Traditions of Christmas paper. I'm just pulling out some scraps to start with, because that's one of the nice things about this layout, is you can easily use up scraps, but we also don't have to use scraps. I think these two together could be a lot of fun. So, let's move that out of the way. Bring in trimmer. So, we need 12.8 centimeters. I'm going to go this way. 12.8, and I swapped it around because there's a lot of that red, And there's not much of that, so I don't mind discarding that. And again, I need 1.4. 1.4. Which way am I going to do it? I'm going to do it up here. 1.4. And I'm coming from the bottom because I want to push up against this rail and not shift this paper. It will hold it in place much better to do this little narrow strip. 1.4. And we're going to do another one. 1.4. There we go. And this is going to be 8.2. 2. By 1. Okay, now that that's figured out, now I need to figure out the other colors that I'm going to do with this. So let me pull a few. I haven't yet pulled them. We'll see what we wind up with. Okay, so I've pulled Secret Sea, and Cherry Cobbler, and Old Olive, and Real Red. So I'm thinking, let me see what I've got in my folder here. Yep, I'm thinking a Secret Sea base. And again with the basic white layer. And this is a standard, you know, one step down layer. I cut these in bulk. I cut that size and I cut 2 layers down because I use them all the time. I know I've told you this before, but like I said, oh, that's exactly the same size. That's not the right one. Oh, I'm out of them. I need to cut more, but I cut both of them because I use them all the time, and then I just have them ready to go. So there's that. You know, we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just getting an idea of my layout. We'll turn that one that way. Do I like it? It's okay. How am I going to step that up a little bit better? I'm going to do that on the inside. I'd rather have those. I'm going to see. I think this one, I'm just looking at that. It looks crooked on this side. Yeah. It's quite crooked on this side. But I think we'll live with it. Okay. Okay, let's cut this. See how we like it. I'm wondering if the white is kind of much. But let's see here as we get this lined up here. Get on here. So you get to see the whole process here. Just curious if we do that instead. Yeah, somehow I like that better. What do you think? And then the question becomes, oh, I'm not seeing comments from you guys on this. One more option. That might be it. What do you think? Come here, come here. What do you think? Green base, Old Olive Pool Party, basic white base. And oh, we could do that. I'm trying to decide this, the Secret Sea. I could do that with gold. I could do that with gold, but I'm not quite sure why I would. I could do that with gold or Secret Sea. Yep, white with the sentiment, green base. I agree. Thanks, Mom. And gold or the dark blue. You can think on that while I start with glue. I kind of like the gold with all the gold. Come here. With the Secret Sea, yeah. I am happy to do that. And let the gold just kind of be here. And in fact, we might do gold embellishments. Let me put it on here and see how. I'm just going to go with it because I think if I try to trim it up straight, it's just going to get more wonky. This is my experience with my cutting skills. Yeah, the hard part is making the decisions, not the constructing. It's just not always the case, but often. Okay, so again, we will bring in that. Our ink pad. I am not worried about ink down in between the letters because I am not going to press anywhere near enough to get all the way down there. I'm going to clean the stamp so that nothing falls on it. Yes, I can emboss the Secrecy with the clear embossing powder, but I don't think it needs it. I like it as it is. I'm going to glue that in here. If you wanted to get a little bit of dimension, you could pop up the sentiment in here. Or you can pop this layer up on the base. But again, I'm not going to do that because I want some of these cards that are going to be really easy and absolutely no question about mailing. Here we go. How cattywampus can we be? And then, let's see. We have those. That are part of this Traditions of Christmas suite. I'm not very inventive with these. There we go. So I've made 2 of these. And it's interesting because even though they are different pieces of paper, it looks, anyway, I like how that looks, how they came together to bracket that with these offset from each other. So I'm happy with both of those. I hope you like them. I will be back. It's the same time for me and anybody watching live in Australia. It's the same place. If you are in North America, it will shift because your clocks change. And I will have that link up both on the blog post, the link that lets you double check the time, both on my next blog post, which will be at nancysniftynotes.com, and it will go out on the Facebook page where you are watching now, if you're watching live, as well in advance so that you can double check the time. And I will see you, next week. Thanks for joining me today. There are the cards again. Thanks for your input. See you next week. Bye-bye.